Oh,
All right. So
all right.
I'm ready if you're ready.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'd like the background for this is for our people, such as our crew in Manchester. You know who you are, Moshe and Jeanette. We were gonna we were gonna
And then
update you.
tons of people in my group. I figured I could send it to them. So it's just our recap of our Santa Fe notes or Santa Fe experience.
Yeah,
So,
that's good.
so we took, yeah, and some fun things. Yeah.
And comparison of the notes or enhancing, I guess. We're not really comparing them.
Right. Yeah. We're just like sharing and then seeing, the things that you wrote that I didn't, or that you like, that caught your eye or ear. So super fun weekend. So glad we went. I got to meet so many people that I had never met in person. So that was a blast. And we met new people. You met my friends. I met your friends. Like it was really fun. Super fun, like energy exchange with everybody.
Yeah,
You still have, I like it.
I was thinking this morning, I wonder if it felt I thought this meeting was really one of the deepest one, if not the deepest and most fun one. And I'm sitting
Mm.
on an exercise ball, so if it's that rubby farty noise, it's the rubber ball I'm on. So maybe I'll stand up. Anyway, so I wonder if that was the reason that it felt so good was, sometimes when you go eat at the restaurant, you for like back to back to back to back, and then you take a break and then you go eat and it feels really good. I wonder if that was like that because we go to a lot of, for a while we used to go to, all the meetings and then we stop. I haven't been to Abraham event for, a year.
Less
So I
than a
wonder,
year. You went to Amsterdam, but yes,
yeah,
feels
anyway,
like
cool. All right, so let's do this. It's like,
it.
ooh, who knows? It's been how long? Ooh, 4 minutes. All right. So we'll
We
we'll
only
tell
have now.
people.
That was the thing, is we're only in the now moment. Even in reflecting back, it's still reflecting back from the now moment.
Right. And then we'll tell people they can start at minute 5.
Totally.
Santa Fe, Abraham. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. First
All right.
note.
So my first note is it's not possible to not get what you want. Like they opened with that pretty much.
That's my first note too. It's not
Yes.
possible for you to not get what you want.
Yeah. And so I have like when you ask, you create your vibrational reality that contains the power and gathers the cooperative components. And I think some of my most fun like experiences lately are just noticing these cooperative components that gather, and it is fun to connect the dots. They did talk about that, connecting the dots backwards and just seeing like all of our inner beings that are just having so much fun playing and putting everything into the exact right place for us to have the experiences that we're experiencing. So I think that's super fun.
Yeah, I remember that connecting the dots now that you're saying it a couple
Right.
times. People were, and one of them, it was very interesting. The lady about her dad or something. And she said, oh, you humans connect the dots wrong way, kind of, not the wrong way, but says you want to connect the dots back to, oh, this is manifested. I remember when I wanted this, and along the
Right.
journey, I did this, or I put it out there, and then I was having fun and then got it, like connected.
Right. Really connecting like the high vibing dots.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the most fun. We can connect the dots in any way, but that's definitely the most fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one. It says, nobody bossing you around. You drive it all. And I said, this
Yep.
is about getting inspired or inspiration for things.
Right.
I get this. And I think it was somebody saying like, write a book. It was the guy with
Yeah.
the white hair.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. Reed had said in his meditation, his inner being said, "You're going to write a book." And Abraham said, "Well, that's your interpretation, and that's a totally fine interpretation, but we never ever tell you anything that you have to do. But what's in your vortex says you would like that's your next fun step is to actually write a book." So I thought
yeah,
that was cool. Like inner being never tells us what to do. It's always like it's our own energy and it's our interpretation because we do interpret, things sometimes as you got to do this, or maybe we won't do it or something, so I think that's fun.
Yeah, now that we're sharing this and I'm remembering, it was really funny, or I thought it was really good because I get this and I had that hot seat before, is like the responsibility of going through this inspiration, responsibility, how I go like that. And Abraham goes, we never boss or we never say it like this. He goes, but looking at your probably or something like that, looking at your vortex, we said, oh, you like to share stuff. You like
Right.
to do this. You like to learn this. You like to do this. And
You're a
just gave
teacher.
bunch
Yeah.
of different experiences and then said, and you interpret that as write the book. So
Totally, totally. Yeah. And I guess we could interpret it in any, like, so many different ways, but that was like his next, I don't know, I just say his next right step, but his next, fun action or whatever. So I
yeah.
think that's,
And
I really,
on
um,
that thread, what really is cool, Abraham didn't say, you wanted all these things, so we suggested or inspired you, or your inner being inspired you. He said, we
right.
said, hey, you like these things. You interpret it as one
I'm going to
item.
write a book. Yep. Yep.
So
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool.
I think it is too. And that just goes to like the free will. Like we literally, we're here to play, we're here to create whatever the next fun thing is. And so I think that's really cool how we get to interpret all these like fun options that we have.
Yeah.
I do want to, I know that we all know this, probably everybody that's going to listen to this, but what they said in the very beginning too was, it says what Abe wants most is that we come to know for sure that when life causes us to ask, it is given to us. And I know we all know that asking it is given. And when they said it, like I just felt it at this another layer or level that just said, just know it for sure that when you ask, it's given. Like, and then their next thing was that our opinions that get in the way of what's happening. It's the story that I tell that gets in the way of what I think is happening. So I thought that was just really just like to reiterate that really when we ask, it really is given. And that's what they want us to know the most. It's
Yeah. Thank
there.
you. I had that half a note. It looks like,
Yeah.
it says, Abraham wants you to most,
Ah,
and then there's nothing else. Cliffhanger. I was like,
all
"Ah,
right, there you go. It is,
thank you.
yeah. I've given it to you.
Thank you. All right. So
Ah, that's
I
good.
have my next one is the clarification of the placemat. Do you have that, or do you have something before that?
Let's see. I think you just said it, but like don't micromanage what's in our vortex. Did you say that?
I
I feel
didn't,
like
but it sounded
okay. So I kind of had that. Like they were talking about not micromanaging what we put in our vortex, like get out of the way. And I think
mm,
we'll have more stuff. I think they talked about it later too. And then I have like replace effort with focus, like really feel your way through as opposed to efforting. And I think that we all know that too. And really they iterated so much, how you feel is what you get, like how you feel is what you're letting in. Like it's always how we feel about it. Like you and I can take the same action, or we can like, or even have the same desires but go about it in a different way, or feel about it in a different way. And so it's really how I feel and then how you feel. Like it's always moving from the place of what feels a little bit better or what feels really good, or like we're reaching for that next like good feeling place.
yeah. So I
um
had that replace the word effort with focus.
uh-huh.
Before
Yep.
that, I had um, on the clarification of placement, it says it's not bossing or delegating to the universe, but
Mm-hmm.
relief of overwhelming and letting go of the I don't know how to do it. So
Wait, say that.
when
Yeah.
Abraham was describing the placemat, which was, I think they really did a lot of placemat
They did. Yep.
explanations. Like there was that, and
In the marble
marble
game.
were the most,
Yep.
most talked about processes. But on the what I have is like when you write the placeboard process, then you're not really saying, hey, take this and handle this. but the idea or the real benefit of it is to letting go of the like being overwhelmed. So you're like breathing a little bit better. And also it helps you don't have to figure things out. So then letting go of, oh, I need to figure out social media marketing. When you
Yep.
pass it to,
Uni-
universe,
Or your inner
when you
being.
move that to the universe side of the placemat. And then it's like, oh, you don't have to worry about how am I going to figure out the algorithms and stuff. And now that as I'm flowing
It's
through
the
this,
place
I
mat. Yeah.
remember later on they said, oh, when Esther was doing taxes or something, then took it from universe's side to her side to do it, but she was in a different space. So that's really cool.
Totally. Yeah. So it really, what I feel about the placemat process, it really is, okay, these are the things that I can do. And it's usually just what minding my own vibration or where am I focusing. We really can give everything else to the universe. And then once there is an action that we need to take, we take it from a different place. Like we're in a different place. And yeah, so that's really cool. Um,
I got one more. It says, we can't
go for it.
know. Oh, this was really cool. This was helpful for me. It says, we can't know your worthiness enough to overcome what your coaches, parents, and others told you, and you accepted as true.
Mm. Like they can't know our worthiness enough.
Well, saying we can't
We have
slap
to know
you,
it.
like, yeah, you have to know it. Like, we know it already, but we can
Yep.
know it for you. And,
Yep.
we can't overcome it. So we know how worthy you are.
Right.
But they're like, if you're believing what your coach, what your parents, somebody told you, you're this, you're that, or whatever, and you accept it as truth, they're like,
Right.
all our knowing is
Right.
it can't
Can't.
help
Yeah.
you, or
Right.
it can't penetrate free will, what you were saying earlier.
Totally. Totally. I really like that. I know my next note that I really, really like just hit home for me was sometimes we think the path of least resistance is being in line with other people. This is they were started talking about their bag of marbles, like the bag of marbles that we walk into a room with. And I've heard them talk about bag of marbles for a little while now, but I really like this. So sometimes we think the path of least resistance is being in line with others' bag of marbles, which sometimes it could be, but it's not always the path of most allowance. And so for me, they've always kind of, my interpretation has always been the path of most allowance, the path of least resistance were very much similar. And so this really created a really awesome space of like, oh, like when I'm really following my highest excitement or doing the next right thing for me, it's more of my path of most allowance. Like going with the flow, going with whatever other people think might be the path of least resistance. Like there might be no friction or no conflict or no like resistance, but it's not always my path of most allowance. Like it said to me that, you know what, sometimes, and I believe this, the bumps are good, the wobbles are good, the uncomfortableness is actually exactly where I'm supposed to be because it creates more and it allows more into my life. And so for me, as an Enneagram 9 who wants no no contrast, no uncomfortableness, it goes, oh, but sometimes that's really, really good for me. Like that's really, really exactly nothing going wrong. I think that's my biggest thing is there's nothing going wrong, even when I'm in a wobble. And it's often more a path like, oh my God, it allows more into my life, more joy, more fun, more desire, as opposed to just going along. I used to think I wanted everything to be super chilled all the time, and I would totally get bored. So, or I know I would get bored if it was like that. So that's what anything with that for you that hit
Yeah,
me really, really big.
I have that down the road. I think
Oh,
earlier
okay.
on I must have been super focused, and then later
What else
on
you got?
I have.
Yeah,
So
tell me. Yeah.
I had one, it says your point of attraction is the main event.
Yeah, totally.
So it was like, that's the thing, like everything else doesn't matter. And then,
Yep.
like along that line, how you feel is what you get. They repeated that before, like
Mm,
before meetings. So it's like your point of attraction, of course, your point of attraction by how you feel and what manifests around you. But they're like, that's the main event. Everything else is manifestations, blah, 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 blah. But like your point of attraction equals, or whatever it is, how you're feeling at this current moment, whether you're aligned or not. They're like, that's the main event. Everything else is secondary. Another one I have here is to replace the word effort with focus.
Right.
So that
Yep.
was really cool. They're like, and I don't remember who was that, but they were talking about, like effort. You need to focus on, connection or how you feel, like focus as a tool for alignment rather than effort for alignment.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Don't meditate to create alignment. Meditate because it feels good.
yeah. And one
Focus on
thing
what I
that
want.
I had that before what you were saying earlier is replace I have an opinion about something with
Yeah.
I have an intention.
Totally. Yep. I did have that written down. That was a good one.
So what are your
And
thoughts on that?
so I was thinking, so if I have an opinion, if I replace it with an intention, like I was thinking, like it could be with anybody, but if I have an opinion about somebody that's negative or not exactly high vibing, I can shift that. And I'll just say, like, my dad comes to mind. Like, oh, I have an opinion about how he's going to be. But then if I have an intention to just be loving with him or just to have a good time or have fun, like that really shifts. So that's what it says to me. Like, what if I just have an intention? Like, I shift my intention and kind of let that opinion fall to the wayside. That's what it says to me.
Yeah,
How about
that's what
you?
I was thinking too. Like, and I have
Mhm.
an opinion about everything. So really, like, e- I mean, it's just like that, right? Even if I'm like, oh, that thing is whatever, it's an opinion. Right before I state it, if I was to stop and say, okay, well, but what's my intention?
Yep.
Oh, that's an entirely different statement is going to come out of my mouth next.
Right.
I mean, that's just like, because my intention is what it is, and opinion is something different. So,
Absolutely. And that shifts the focus. Like that's
yeah,
when what am I focusing on? Am I focusing on my opinion about what I think about somebody that's very likely not even true? Or it could be an opinion about anything. Or what is my intention? And I feel like intention has there's so much more depth and it's focus. It's like, oh, that helps me go, oh yeah, what is it that I actually really want? So I think that's super cool.
and I'm doing if we end up posting this video, I'm doing all these things because I'm freaking out about my mic. But
Oh, it sounds good.
my intention is for things to sound nice because I'm
Yeah, it
having
sounds
fun either
good.
way. Good.
Yeah, it sounds good. Oh, from over here, I can hear you well.
And then it says
Um,
this is perfectly dovetails. Were you gonna say something? Go ahead.
no, go for it.
Says stop explaining how you get there. It has
Ah,
resistance in it. Just be where your now is.
totally. And that was like stop justifying where you are.
Yeah,
So you said stop explaining, which kind of sounds like justifying too. They had said that somewhere too. So stop explaining, right? Because that was like the big long story, I think, that was maybe told. And then it's like, you don't have to tell that whole story. Like just get to where you are now.
yeah. Like
Mhm.
it's in a good and a bad or whatever. It's like, and then this goes back to the next one. Again, I must have been really flowing. Good seeds.
They
Anything
were
in the
good.
past, anything in the past you focus on always have more resistance than now. So this is
Right.
in line with this explaining. So if you're like, oh, I was this, I was that, I have worked, well, however you like explaining, but I'm rich now, but I'm happy now, or what are there, all this, at any moment that you're actually looking back to justify it and or explaining it is like always, it says always have more resistance than now.
It always has more resistance. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Like we're bringing it with us. Like we're dragging it into our now,
yeah,
which is so unnecessary. So
yeah,
true. And that kind of goes with I have satisfying, like that feeling of satisfaction or satisfying feeling. Like there's no resistance in the moment when we're in that just satisfied place.
yeah,
Like when I'm super happy with where I go to taking a walk in our neighborhood. I love it. I love the blue sky. I love our neighborhood. I love that we can walk to these super cool spots in Charlotte, like, South End, coffee shops, whatever, be around people, or we can stay in our neighborhood with all the trees and birds and things like that. Like it feels so like in the moment, like satisfaction, super excited. Like it makes me really happy. So that makes sense to me that like in that place of feeling satisfaction, that there really is no resistance. I can
Yeah.
bring it in, but the emotion of satisfaction, no resistance.
Yeah, and along the same path, it was like nothing is more important than your now is. So
Yeah.
that's the part that is like, okay, how do you feel now? How do you feel now? Or all those
Yep.
things. And I think that was really cool. And
Yep.
then this one is the guilt-free fun or fun with guilt. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it could have been I don't know, is it Corey or somebody? They were talking about something. It's like feeling guilty or spending, like not working or something coming easy. I don't remember the details of this, but Abraham was going, so is having fun,
Yeah.
frivolous? I was like this. So
Right.
the guys on the seat, Abraham is like, is fun frivolous or is like necessary or good?
Right. Yeah. 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 I think it was necessary. Yeah.
And then I was
Or no, it wasn't. I don't know what it was.
frivolous. I mean, before Abraham, of course, before asking the question, it says, "Don't worry, you'll get this because we're setting you up."
Yep.
Like, and then it's like, "Is fun frivolous or this?" I'm like, hmm. And then it was fun, and then last one of those was is guilt-free fun, like which is better, guilt-free fun or fun with guilt? And that's
Mm-hmm.
like, while you're having fun, are you being present, or afterwards do you feel guilty, or
Right.
can you just concentrate on having fun and have fun and have fun and just don't worry about anything else?
Right. Right. I like that a lot. And in line with that, they were talking about like not, or maybe it was my interpretation, like we don't have to get the things done before having fun, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, so I like that a lot.
Yeah. And now I arrived to what you were
Mhm.
saying earlier, adjusting to adjusting to judgment of others may be the path of least resistance, but it's not path of most allowance.
Right. Yep.
And that was
That's a
really
big one.
good.
That's a
And
good
they
one.
they had a clarification. I think for one, Benjamin came because then we had a break, and I know he said he's gonna ask it, and he asked for Abraham to clarify it, and they're like, yeah, we used to say path of least resistance and path of most allowance are the same, but they're like not anymore. And then it
Right.
was, what was it? You have it on your chart.
Well, yeah, it's later on in my notes. I remember they said the path of least resistance is the lower half of the scale, like on the emotional scale, and then the path of most allowance is like the higher
That's
part
it.
of the scale, like
Yeah.
the upper part of the scale. So
Yeah.
that's really where they started distinguishing that. Like the
Yeah.
path of sometimes and often the path of least resistance is the exact place that we need to be. Like just no resist, like let me just go to the next, from depression to anger, or probably not even that big of a jump, but like moving up the emotional scale is the path of least resistance. And then kind of once we get to those upper levels, it's like, wow, it feels like way more allowing. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
For
And
sure.
then next one, I think you have this too. So path of most allowance. This was before a break. You didn't come to prove your value. You
Mhm.
came as value.
Oh, that's so good.
Mic drop.
Right? You're that's really good. That's
Yeah.
really good. Yeah,
This is like all about the working and all that stuff.
absolutely.
Yeah. And then they had a guy who, I don't know if it was a guy, somebody's talking about how can I talk to my cells to regenerate.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham says, don't talk to your cells because that's not your work. They didn't say it like that's not your work like all other times. So I'm paraphrasing it. And it was like, you don't even know how to talk to your cells. They're like, like the
They're little
cell
tiny.
language.
Yeah. And they said, talk to your inner being. They were like, your inner being will talk to your cells.
That's right.
No problem.
Yeah.
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 Yep. For
So
sure. And I
that's
think this comes to like what really feels good. Like if it feels good to talk to your cells, go for it. You know what I mean? Like it really is like what feels really good.
yeah.
Um, because I know a lot of people come from so many different like Joe Dispenza or people who do really medical, like very technical things. And so if that feels really good, then go for it. That's more my opinion. Abraham says
That's like that for everything. The
for
same for
every
Abraham. In fact, now that and this was about that, somebody did
yeah.
mention,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, so it, I think it was like if you're talking to yourselves to heal something, like you're like,
Mm,
oh, I had this illness or whatever, and then you're trying to talk to yourselves, they're like, well, your vibration is not right. That's why work on your inner being. Let your inner being do it, because your cells, each individual trillions of cells, have their own intelligence. They have their own way of communicating. And later on, this came back because somebody said something about stem cell. And
yep.
Abraham is like, why don't you just work with your own cells? You know?
Totally. I know. Yeah. It's
um,
fun.
my next on this one is knowing it is something, but showing it to yourself is different. Like this is
Mm,
about words don't teach, but your life experience. And they were saying, like put the intention, get out of the way or whatever. Like, yeah,
right.
it's like, okay, so you're knowing it, that's great. But now showing it to yourself is where the experience, and this is why you came here to really co-creating at its best, or creation, just the whole process of, things. So
Hands in the clay kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah. Not being in the intellect all the
yeah,
time or only in that.
yeah.
Yep. My next one's about the love. So do you have anything before that?
Love,
The
love, love.
emotion?
Yeah, so I have two more things. One thing that goes, look for easy to find existing matches. So Abraham was discussing kind of Esther's routine or whatever the morning, and they use a lot of this. Like they spend quite a bit of time on look for easy to find existing matches, rather than it says don't reach for it or look for it. And it says if it's not easy existing match, it's not your work. So I
Yeah.
think it was like, if you're trying to like somebody, they're like, that's not your work. Look for existing,
Yep.
easy to find matches that's just around you. Like don't
Yep.
generate, don't make up stuff. Look, appreciate, and
Right.
then
And it could
raise
be,
your
I
vibration.
love my comfortable chair, you know, I love, my tea or coffee in the morning. I love spending time with my husband. I love, going for walks. I love, hanging out with our nephew, like whatever the easy, super easy existing match, no resistance, no efforting. It just comes, like that easy.
Yep.
Yep.
Now it's the love one. Go.
This is good. I love it. So what I have is every emotion is love or a diminished version of it.
That was
It's
great.
all love. It's like it's all there is. So it's all like everything, even in my most like parts of me that get super angry or like upset with somebody or something. It's like it's all a version of love. It's just diminished. So that was like really beautiful. Like it's all like, yeah.
Yeah,
It
and when you're
love.
present, the explanation of like these are obviously our notes, but
Right.
how that unfolded was
Yeah.
like, it was really,
I
everything
know.
is love, like everything is love, and then is a diminishment, and then it was like even hate is a love. It's just
It's
like
love.
way diminished, but
It's
it
just
is
diminished
everything
version.
that's
Yeah.
coming from source, and everything is coming from source
Right.
is love. It
Everything.
was like,
And it's all love. I know. It was a good mic drop kind of moment. That's for
yeah,
sure. That is
yeah.
for sure. Um, ooh, I have another one that I really like. Do you have
I have something here. It says your inner being doesn't punish you, or your inner being is always loving you. And then something is like, even if you don't love yourself or something. But no, I think
Mhm.
that's,
Yeah,
yep.
which is true. Yeah. Mine is the manifestation doesn't have to dictate the focus. And what that says to me, it's really how we feel that dictates, you know, the focus. But it shows me that no matter what's going on, like in the world, if it's in my close vicinity or really broad, it's not about it's not about the manifestation. It's about where I'm focusing, you know, like it's, and again, I know we all know it, but I just felt it at this level of like, oh, like it helped me feel, control's not the right word, but really intentional. Like, oh, I really do get to choose where I focus. And it's how I feel about it that really dictates it. Do you have anything with that?
No, I must
Get what
admit.
I'm saying? Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I don't have any notes on that.
Yep.
Yeah, this is still on the loving part. So my next one is like, more desperate you are, harder it is for you to receive the answer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then it's moving on to that shame and thing. So we
Yeah.
must have, must be the next speaker, because I remember this guy was talking about shame and other things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my next one too. 100% of shame comes from disconnected humans. There's love, and then
Say
there's
that
the,
again. So how does your note read?
yeah, mine says 100% of shame comes from disconnected humans. That's just what Abraham had said. You know,
Yeah,
it comes from disconnected people who are disconnected from their source,
yeah.
inner being.
I have the same one. It says you get 100% of your shame from people who are disconnected. I'm just thinking like how I took
Yeah,
my
how we write. Yeah, totally. And then I have there's love and the pinching off of it. You know, like they were talking about there's no right or wrong. You know, like
yeah,
there's really no right or wrong. There's either love or you're the pinching off of love. That's it.
yeah.
Like, but yeah, the shame part was really like, oh, like it comes from people who aren't connected to their own inner being. You know, like, and then there's even compassion in that. Like when I think about that, like, oh, it's just coming from disconnected people, or you know, people who aren't um yeah, feeling connected to themselves.
Yeah,
So
and there was a part
self.
of how we respond to shame. I think that was the kind of explanation of you get 100% of your shame. So I think that guy was talking about sex and there was different things. And then Abraham went on that tangent about stopping at red light. And then, there's no traffic. And then you're still at red light. And it's like, how do you feel versus if there's a cop there, and
Right.
then the rules. It was very interesting unfoldment of how this worked out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. That's good. That was good.
And I have here Abraham says, we never explain or coddle you. So that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
like they're like we don't explain things to you, or we don't make things to you. We're just telling you how the universe works. It's not our job to make you feel better, or it's not our job to punish you or anything. We're just sharing how the universe works, and then your
Right.
interpretation or how you interpret is direct demonstration of where you are, is where your vibration is.
Yeah. Where you're focusing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. And it's like they're just holding the vibration of love. You know, our inner
yeah,
beings are just holding that vibration of love, and they are sharing like how the universe works.
yeah.
Yeah. And the another one, it says, let's see. Oh yeah, just this is general, but this is a creative environment. Like Earth is a creative environment. We just came here to create.
It's the same one I have. It says you are in a creative environment to enjoy creating.
Right. Yep. So just period. That's it.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
there was something in this day went on quite a bit on that shame. It was really
Yep.
like, I mean, one of the things that I noticed on this Abraham seminar, first of all, first guy was deep. In fact,
Mm,
Abraham was like, this is now, of course, many hard hitters, heavy hitters were in the presence,
mhm.
were in the group. So I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna go deep," and I was really looking forward to a deepness. first guy comes in, Abraham is like, we may call you back later. Like,
Yeah.
remember? This is really deep because, more than half the room was first timers. And then Abraham was like, nah, we'll just go. And then
Mm,
later on, multiple times, Abraham looked out and said, like, you newbies, are you following this? Or are you, it was like, it wasn't the
yeah. They
usual.
were like, are you getting this? Yeah.
Yeah, that was really
Mhm.
cool. So on this shame, we spent quite a bit of time, and then we were talking about God concept. And here, Abraham was saying, "Well, you guys kind of Abraham doesn't speak like that, of course. Anybody who listened to this 30 minutes into it understands." Um,
Yeah.
it says, your definition, humans' definition of God is keeper of the goods with qualifications. And I
Mhm.
didn't really understand what that meant, but later on I looked it up. And he goes, but there are no qualifications.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very true. My next one is about do you have like before getting into like the story that we tell, like if you know that it's true, do you have anything before that? Because I bet you wrote that down.
I have, don't be too quick to bail on your thing, or you don't have to talk law attraction into or convince it to get you what you want.
Right.
Like
The
law
law of
attraction
attraction
is
knows what you
working.
want.
You don't have to do it. Like you're either getting it or you're resisting it. But law attraction is
Right. Right.
solid, always on, is working. You don't have to negotiate. You don't have to justify. You don't have to describe. You're like, I want it, and then just
Yep.
get out of the way.
And then even in the placement process, they said, Esther writes it down. This is my stuff. This is the universe's stuff. And then they were like, you don't even have to write. We already know. We
Oh
already
yeah,
like you don't actually even have to write it down. We got it, like, but there is this thing about writing it down that it feels good to then say, okay, universe, this is
it's
yours.
true. It's true.
But they're
It's
like,
like
we do already know. It's
they're
okay.
like,
You don't
yeah,
keep
we
telling
already
us.
know.
Yeah, we got this.
Yeah. So
Oh,
next one I have is what and why are the only things to ask.
mm-hmm.
What do I want? Why do I want it? And this is not ask how or when.
Yeah. Yeah, that is good. That's good. I'll say the one that I really like, it says, if you know that it's true, like if you know that it's true that what you want is in your vortex, like really,
Mm.
like for sure knowing that it's true, that what we want is in our vortex, how would you tell the story? Like if it
Oh,
hasn't happened yet, like how would it, to me, it's like when we're like so sure about something. Oh, and then they say don't take score too soon. But like just knowing that something is really like knowing it's true that it's in my vortex and that it is coming. Like how do I tell the story now? Like how do I tell the story? Or where do I act from? Like that's big for me. Like, oh man, just like really trusting and knowing the universe really does have my back. Like it all really, really is working out. Like all the things. Then what story do I tell? And
yeah.
that one just really shifts a lot of things just in my brain. Like, oh yeah, huh. I can take a deep breath. Things are easy, feels really good. I trust that I can actually follow my highest excitement. Like I trust that I can like do the next fun thing. So yeah, that felt really good to me. And the don't take score so soon. Like just stop taking score. I'm a good scorekeeper. I'm like, oh, hadn't how? Like, what about now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Was that lady ask a question and then Abraham is like, work, work, work. He goes, now ask the same question, knowing what like, if all
Yep.
these things are possible and they are or whatever, like,
Yep.
how would you ask that question? And he was like,
Now.
no
Mhm.
question to ask.
Right. Yeah, that was good. That was really good. Yep.
thrills thrills me to want it. So that was
Mm,
about desires. Like,
right.
you're in full alignment is like keeping score thing, right?
Totally.
They're like, oh, if it thrills you to want what you want, they're like, that's the path.
Totally. Right. And then along with that, it's like noticing when I talk about something that I want from a place of noticing that I don't have it.
Hmm.
You know, like, am I talking about it from a place of knowing that it's here or it's coming, or just they talked about anticipation, you know, like, ooh, am I in that place of anticipation, like excited anticipation? And I really feel like I told you that earlier, like, I really feel like even my desire for wanting a place in Turkey, like it used to be from a place of, because I don't have, like, really noticing, oh, we're not there yet. We don't have a place. Oh my gosh, when's it going to happen? And for the last several months, I've been in a place of, it really does feel excitement, anticipation. Like, I feel like I'm on the other end of the stick from it, like noticing that I've shifted from that place of, is it going to happen, to just knowing it's going to happen and being in it's a fun place to be. Like, I'm excited that it actually hasn't happened yet, because this is a super fun, exciting place. It's so fun to think about,
Yeah.
like totally anticipation and that really high vibing. There's, you know, two ends of the stick on anticipation too. So just being in that place of like, oh wow, like this feels really good.
Yeah. Throws me to one end. Next one I have speaker change. I think this is that Brazilian lady. Like I have it. Why do people crash out of what they want? My verbiage. Do you have something before that, or do you have?
Let's see. I have to justify, like, standing in a place of not having it and still feeling good about it. Kind of goes in along the lines of kind of what I was just saying, like just really being in that place of, um, yeah, like I guess that's exactly what I just said. Not like we don't have a house in Turkey yet, and I know that we don't, but I'm totally fine with it. Like, I actually really, it just feels really fun. Let's see. Yeah, so
So
I
I
do. Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I have something that says you can't worry and feel well-being for someone at the same time.
Yeah.
That's a good one for me, because I can certainly get into worry for people. And what I really want to feel is well-being for them, knowing that all, like, really that all is well and that everybody's good, and you know, all that good stuff. Ooh, and another one I have, if you're afraid to make mistakes in front of other people, you're calibrating to them instead of your inner being. And
Oh
like, you know,
yes.
right, like that resonated with me a lot, because I definitely get afraid to do things or share things, or I'm definitely get afraid to look silly or make mistakes. And
All right now.
yeah, so
All right, so I have why do people crash out of what they want? So as she was saying this, I was like, oh, there comes my drone story. Now, one of the really cool things that for me that was really helpful is instant manifestation of things. Like even people who are in a hot seat, like God question and everything, I would just put it out there and the guy would just ask it. He was like, the people were talking about something different, and then you go boop, and then the discussion takes a different spot.
right.
So earlier in the hallway, I ran into somebody who were remembering my drone story. And
Mm-hmm.
then Mark was there. We were like, ah, never, drone boy never gets old, kind of a thing. And then come back, and this lady was talking about crashing out. You know,
Right.
it's like, oh,
Right.
I grew up poor and then I became rich. And in this whole process, I had no idea about law attraction. And now I know about law attraction. It's hard or something.
Well,
Like she
she
was,
lost everything. She
yeah,
lost everything. And
yeah.
now
So
she knows law of attraction. Yep.
right, she lost everything. Now she knows law of attraction. She's like, oh, it's CP's like it's coming slow. Anyway, so and then Abraham is like, well, you got it, let go and all. So here is why do people crash out of what they want or what they manifested? And it says paying attention to the opinion of others who knew you before manifesting your desires.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the part where, for me, is what that was is when we care about the opinions of our peers and our friends as we're moving up.
I don't know why I did that. I did like this and it gave a thumbs up. I don't
That's
know.
good. I
I
love
was
it.
like,
It's good.
or maybe it was
Uh,
you that gave a thumbs up. I don't know what you did.
no, Anyway,
Sorry.
so the universe gave you thumbs up. They're like, oh, did you say
Yeah,
you
that's
want to
true. I like
relax? It's like, this is how it's
I
done.
like I like it.
Yeah. So that's the paying attention to the attention to the opinion of others whom we knew us before. So
Mhm.
then it's, some people don't want to outshine their family, friends, parents, or whatever. And then they go up here and there's a discomfort. And then
Right.
because they care about the opinions of their families and friends and all, and then it's normal, you're essentially lowering your vibration to a
Yep.
previous version, which is not possible. So it requires you to really holding yourself, holding your cork under the water.
Right. Absolutely. Mm.
And on that like same path, it says, and my note says, think like this. It's not what's interesting, but what resonates with
Mm.
yourself. So that's when
Okay.
they were talking about um is like the person brought in train analogy, which was so dear to me. But said, we look into problems, we look into these things because it's exciting. Abraham is like, yeah, there's drama, there's excitement, there's movement, there's momentum, there's all this stuff. That's like, yeah. It says,
Right.
but the question is, does it resonate? And then
Mhm.
don't worry about the drama or what's interesting, but like don't align with that, but align with what resonates with you.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's good.
Yeah, that is good. My next one is like basking. Like basking is allowing the momentum to rise. And we know that, but it just feels so good to bask in something that even the weekend, like just all the people, Abraham, like the high vibing energy, like even the travel, like everything was really just so much fun. Like it was really just basking in that builds momentum. So I love it and it feels really good.
Yeah.
Um, I also have let my inner being take care of business, like delegated to the universe. So this is when they really start and like undelegate myself. And so they really talked about this a lot, like let yourself off the hook,
Yeah.
give it to the universe. So it's really kind of what we'd said in the beginning about the placemat process. But they talked about like day 2 was all about processes. So it was really the placemat and the marble game was like they just kind of reiterated stuff all throughout. Yeah. And then I have written down, this is probably more for me, but like whatever's on my mind that I might be worrying about, really delegate it to my inner being and undelegate it to myself. I'm just know that especially if I'm worrying about, for me, it's a lot of times my nephew, whatever, he's great and fabulous, but my brain just goes to crazy places. And I'm just really like, all right, universe, you've got this. And like when I even just say that to myself or know that his inner being's got him, there's a soothing for me that happens super fast. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, like he's totally fine. And I don't have to tell the story over and over, the other story. And then I do have in line with that, fear is indicator or an indication that I'm not delegating it to the universe. So when I am in that fear, just noticing, oh yeah, I'm taking over, like I'm trying to manage this and it has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And
That's,
I've known that for years, but it's always really, really, really good for me to hear it over and over in different ways and at different levels of wherever I am and how I'm showing up.
yeah. I
Yep.
remember that somebody was talking about fear, and Abraham said, if your fear, you didn't let go or
Right.
you didn't turn
Yeah.
it over.
You didn't give it to the universe. Yeah.
Or the same thing I have. Now, I thought this was really cool too. Now that I'm reading it and we're talking about this, your inner being knows what you become in relationship to your desires. So there was
Mm,
like, where you wanted what you want was not same place.
yeah.
You're changing
Right.
along the way. And so your inner being is keeping up to where you are now,
Mm-hmm.
not when
Mm-hmm.
you first started the dream. So whether you're trying to make
So
money,
true.
relationship, house in Turkey or whatever, where you want it, and just says, and where you are now are different. So it says, so when you focus on being happy, which is what you were talking about, then your inner being moves you around the obstacles.
Yeah. Right.
So when the inspirations come,
And I
they're
even
not,
want to say, it moves us through the obstacles, because that to me is like that path of most allowance often isn't the path of least resistance. So it often is through what I would say is resistance, but it's still my path of most allowance.
Yeah.
Did that take a different turn?
It's
But
there's no
it's
turn to take.
but it's smooth, but it also has like ins and outs. Like they do say that our inner being is always moving us in and around and through all the things,
Yeah.
because it is our path of least resistance,
Yeah. So
and
I
it's our
have
path of allowance.
just let it all be good.
Oh, that's good. I like it.
I have that
Uh,
note here. Do you have it?
yeah, just let it all be good.
Yeah.
I don't. I like it though. That's good.
Oh, so it says we're not guiding you towards or away from anything, simply
Mhm.
sharing how the universe works. And that's what
Right.
you were saying just now.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like we're not driving you at
Right.
Abraham. Like if it was somebody's like Abraham, they're like, it's that's not our work. Like we're not
Yeah.
guiding you towards anything, or we're not guiding you away from anything. We're just
True.
sharing with you. And I felt that too. There were a lot more giving people the not responsibility is not in a like responsibility,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
like, you just
But it's
gotta
a
do it.
choice.
It was like something that's your work. You gotta do it. Like if you want to change whatever that was, like you gotta commit to being happy or whatever. But it's like we can't change you. You have
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
change it.
Well, it brings for like, I interpret it as it's a choice. Like we have a choice. We don't have to do it. Like they always say, you don't have to do any of this. And you may live your life may be super perfect and great. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah. Now you got to move your microphone again. um, the next thing that I have is don't affirm like what you don't believe.
Ah,
You know,
that's
like
my line too, right here.
don't affirm when you don't believe it. You know, and they were talking about affirmations and um, you know, if and we I feel like we do all know this too, but really like affirming, yeah, just don't affirm what you don't believe, you know, because it affirms the lack of it. Like there's still a lot of lack or resistance in that. Like, and then they talked again about finding the easy matches. And I do think we can move up or move up the emotional scale on a subject to then be able to affirm whatever it is we might want that might feel a little wobbly. But yeah, find the easy matches first.
Yeah, that's what I have to. Affirmations always affirm where you are. And they were saying
Mm-hmm.
because when you
Right.
affirm it, when you're like, oh, I'm great, it's not usually when you're feeling
Yeah.
great, you're, in that affirmation. And then that's what they're saying. Like you're actually affirming the opposite of what you want because the universe is like the fact that you're affirming it from that place.
Is affirming that how you actually feel. Right, it's affirming how you feel. It's not
Yeah,
affirming your words, it's affirming truly how you feel. And if you say, oh, I'm fabulous, and you feel shitty, it's affirming the shitty.
right.
I mean, that's a simple way to put it.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
that's what they were saying, find existing matches, go up on the scale, and then you're actually affirming. They're like, oh yeah, that's the magic.
Right. Yep, absolutely. Let's see if I'm in.
Oh,
Oh,
go
I was
ahead.
gonna say I have it like if I'm in the how, I'm not delegating it to the universe.
That's what I have too. When you
Okay.
delegate to the universe, you undelegate it from you,
Mm-hmm.
which
Mm-hmm.
you got that earlier on the
Yep.
placement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Trust well-being and not do anything to get in the way of well-being.
Mm. Right. I like it. My next one is do the things you want to do. And if there's something you need to do, want to do it before you do it. Like,
Exact verbiage. That's exactly what I have. Do the things you really want to do. And if you have something you need to do, want to do it before doing it.
yep, yep,
This was about taxes and things. And
totally. All the things that we don't really want to do. But before we do it, get into the place of wanting to do it,
yeah,
even if it's feeling the satisfaction of having it done.
yeah. And
Yeah, yep.
Abraham gave some Easter eggs examples, and then one line that I liked is fulfilling responsibility in joy.
Yeah.
So like you got to do your taxes, and they were sharing about, Esther calls the office, checks on this and do that, but like some things you got to do your taxes, or
Yep.
some things that you got to do, and then
Yeah.
there's like fulfilling responsibility and joy. Again, that's a choice. Like either way,
Hmm.
you're gonna do it.
Hmm. And in my brain, I'm thinking if it's something that feels really, really hard, at least move up, even if it's not to joy or, super happy about it. But at least if we can move up the emotional scale a little bit,
Yeah,
you know what I
the
mean? Like if it's
anger.
something we're really afraid of, at least move it up a little bit. What'd you say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so move up the anger.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever. It may make you make the phone call, right?
It's
Like
true.
sometimes anger does get things done. Maybe, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then then she started getting into the bag of marbles again. Oh, and really, this was surprising to me, but I get it because she said my bag of marbles, like my beliefs or like what I walk into a room with, can affect others, can diminish them without me even knowing it. Like, so if I walk into, and I get it, like energetically, if I'm thinking crappy thoughts about somebody, I was thinking that it affected me more than them, but it does affect other people. Like it can diminish, like our energy matters, like my thoughts and beliefs matter. And so they were really talking about what I consider pre-paving or, minding my bag of marbles, I guess, like being aware of, because my thought is that our bag holds every thought, our bag holds every emotion, but which one am I going to activate in any given setting? Like, so which bag of, I can't get rid of fear or what anxiety or whatever, anger. It's going to be in my bag. It's available to me, but which ones do I want to activate? It's being intentional. That's what it feels like for me. Like, how do I want to move through, especially if I know I'm going? She talked about going into a restaurant and she's like holding her bag of marbles and like walking in. What does that feel like? Or if she's not minded her bag of marbles beforehand, it's too late. Something may already get activated, and that's okay too. What did you have on that?
Yeah. So as you're sharing what you were sharing, I remember the story was how Jerry always wanted people to feel better from their interaction. Well,
He
they
wanted
didn't
to
say it like that.
enhance.
He he didn't
Yeah, it's
want
a
people to feel diminished because of their interaction with them. And Abraham said Esther always thought that's being polite or being
right,
kind, but the really it's about your bag of marbles is like if you don't like somebody, you're being polite, it still diminishes them. Like
right,
what you put
right.
out on unspoken rules,
Yeah, it did. She did say Jerry. I think she might have used the word diminish. I wrote down enhance. Like he always wants to enhance other people he comes into
Yeah,
contact with. Like he wants them to feel better just being in his presence.
yeah. So I have the marble question here about, in the marble subject, I had a question of how do other people's marble affect me? But that's
Yeah,
again, and that's, I think at that moment, they kind of, on the processes, they were going into segment intending. Like, oh, what
right.
am I going to activate before the interaction? And one thing, this looks like, manifest the feeling what you want, then you quantum leaps. There's always a new way for things to evolve. So that was
Mm-hmm.
again a standalone statement, but
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
was like I thought it was like really good way. There's always a new way for things to evolve. So
Right.
this is helpful for me because I like my hands on a steering wheel, and I'm like, okay, I gotta figure these out. And then
Yep.
Abraham is like, well, it's like there's always even the things that we think how things evolve,
Mm-hmm.
there are always new ways. So there's no way for us to know all the potential ways for the universe to yield to us or unfold for things. There are always new
And for
ways
us
for
to
things to
evolve.
evolve.
Yeah.
100%.
Like, and I really love too, they so much iterated like that they they are so appreciative of us because they get to continue to evolve, like that they continue to evolve as we evolve, and as we ask questions, like they get to answer, and it's just this continuous expansion. It really is. I have about the quantum leaps, like they, how Abraham will say focus, but don't focus. They
Yep.
always say two things, but it is always how we feel about it. But they said, there are no quantum leaps. They're like, there's no quantum leaps, and then they say, manifesting the feeling you want, like manifest what you want to feel, like really get into that feeling, and then the quantum leaps begin. And I think it feels like a quantum leap for us. It's our next logical step, but it can feel really, really big. And then that's when they said to believe first and then you'll see it. And I always think of Wayne Dyer, believe it and then you'll see it. I feel like he always said that, instead of seeing it to believe it. So I don't know, I always feel really happy when I think about that. And then they did too say right before the other, like there's no retrospective viewpoint. I think that was when Mark was in the hot seat. Like even looking back, and we kind of had said this earlier, but even looking back is in the now. But there's no there's no looking back, because even when we look back, we're looking back from our now moment. So yeah. I also have like a rampage from feeling really good. We pretty
Oh,
much,
that was
but
great
he
rampage.
did. If anybody gets the recording, it was on the second day, and well, yeah, it was on the second day, and she does a rampage that is just kick ass.
You
I can't
can't
wait to
miss it.
re-listen to it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
like
you
it
can't
was
miss it.
on fire. It was really, really, really good. Like I was thinking, my head was like, Abraham could totally be a rapper. Like she sounded like we could put some music to that, and it was really, she was killing it, or they were killing it. Esther was killing it in the interpretation.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what about law of attraction and consequence? Are
Yep.
good. They said it's good to pair. Like it's really good to pair the law of attraction and consequence.
Yeah.
You know, and I think you had said earlier at one point, just when we were talking about it earlier, like whatever comes to you is a response to where you are. Like that's how the law, like that's how the consequence is joined in
Yeah. I
with
think that was
attraction.
again clarification. Sometimes Abraham clarifies, compassion, what's the
Mm-hmm.
empathy, blah blah. And this was
Yeah,
like consequence. You guys consider this as kind of a punishment or whatever.
right.
They're like, no, that's actually a direct. And they went on quite a bit of a logic tangent.
I really love, they said logic doesn't go away, just the negative logical thoughts go away. Go away being, like it's not about getting rid of logic, which is really helpful for me because sometimes I think, oh, I'm supposed to just be in my heart center and be like in that space. But it's like, no, it's the negative logic, but the logical thing is that the law of attraction is, the logical thing is that all really is well. The logical thing is that our inner being like loves us, and when we line up with it, that's when we're in the flow. Like that's using logic. To me, that was my interpretation of what they were saying. Anything that you had on that? Does that
No,
feel?
yeah, that's exactly how I was thinking too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Ooh, I really loved the girl that was in the hot seat, and she was talking about her job and she didn't like it, and it sounded like it was super mundane, super boring computer work. And then Abraham started asking her, it was so nice.
So this was
So
the
the
unfolding of a
marble.
marbling process. So like
Totally, yeah. So
Abraham
before
is like,
that,
let's do some processes and get some hands on and pull some
totally.
people on the floor on the hot seat.
Yeah. And then she got chosen and she was talking about her job. She didn't like it. And, we're all thinking, man, this must be like in some cubicle, totally sucks kind of place. Right. And then Abraham asked her, well, I have mine. I don't have all of this written down, but so you fill in where I'm missing. But Abraham was asking, so tell me something. I don't know if they said something good about it, like
Easy
what
to
is something
reach.
good?
Something easy
Yeah,
to reach.
easy.
What can you find something?
What's an easy match?
Yep.
And she's like, oh, it's an architectural marvel. Like it's beautiful. And Abraham's like, oh, okay. What else? I think the first thing she started with was, I love the people that I work with. And Abraham was like, wow, you would not have known that from the opening, right?
Yeah.
And then the place that she works is obviously super beautiful. Like she has all this freedom. I think it sounds like they play games and they joke with each other. They, like do practical jokes. And then even it sounded like maybe there was places to play, like, and chill out. And like it sounded like a divine place to work by the end of it.
Yeah, it
Um,
was like even her energy was like from, oh, I don't like what I do. It's like a boring. It's like, and then we really see this unfold. She's like, oh, like the she appreciated the building. Abraham is like who thought this was gonna go this way?
right.
She's like, oh, it's like a place is like an art gallery and all the friends. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah,
It was
that's
cool. Yeah. And I did write down like my own example. Like if there's somebody that to me like is a somebody that I'm annoyed with,
yeah.
like somebody that just does something and then the feeling that I have is that I get annoyed. And Abraham's like, hey, if that's your dominant thought, that's what you're going to get from that person. You're going to get annoyed. And then she talked about going around in a circle, and you may have a better grasp, but it was kind of like, okay, what is the feeling, like what are you having? And then you go around in a circle and find existing matches that are different than, like, if the person is just like always depressed or a downer, or like could never wants to move from that place of seeing things negatively. And so I went around the circle for me, and it's like, oh, I like people with different opinions from me. I like new ideas. I like different personalities. Like it feels really good to just learn new things and learn about people. Like I just kind of got into that place of like, what's the new feeling, or what's the easy match? Like those were all easy matches for me. And then it's like, okay, so then in the center you write like, what's the new feeling? What's the new emotion that you now feel? And for me, it was like, oh, I really have a lot of appreciation and compassion and love just in general. And then when I can go back and think of this person, like that's the energy that I want to bring. That was my interpretation, or how I was. I'm sure it's not exactly how Abraham said it, but they really did have kind of like, what's in the center? Like you write it and then you write your new emotion that you're feeling, which was a kind of cool way to do that.
Yeah. It's a new process. It's combination of, well, they did say it's kind of a different version of, I guess, evolved version of
Mm-hmm.
focus wheel,
Right. Yep.
and something of appreciation. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
Um,
So that was a good little exercise for me to do. Ooh, and a really big one. Nobody has to change for me to have harmony with them.
oh yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's the key,
I
right?
know that's true, but it was a really great time to hear it. I was like, oh yeah, it's about me shifting the energy. Yeah.
So I had here on after that is, um, to a degree that you allow it, things are always working out for you and everyone else.
Totally. Right.
Or it could be the other way around, because I have a bunch of arrows. There's like things are always working out for me and everyone else. And then it's
Mm-hmm.
like to the degree that you allow it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's always it. And then I feel like they ended similarly to how they started, and they just said like you couldn't want it if you couldn't have it.
Yeah.
And then the only thing that zaps your freedom is your resistance. So I really liked, and they said other things after that. Um, but I think you might have more. But that was kind of where mine ended.
Yep. I have the next line here is regret is the worst use of now.
Oh yeah, that's right. That is good.
And it must be like I'm coming towards the end of my page. And then it says, it's not how much you deserve, but how willing you are to allow it.
Mm-hmm,
So this
mm-hmm.
was about getting things you want, and
Right.
part of that. It's like it's not like you're worthy.
Right.
It's not the question of whether you're worthy or not. It's not do you deserve it or not. They're like, if you want it,
You
it's
get to
yours.
allow it.
You
Yep.
can't, you can't, and I think that's yeah. And the next one, I think you have this too, is you couldn't want it if you couldn't have it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. I like that a lot. So overall, I hope this is helpful to whoever might have actually listened to this. I don't know if anybody will, but because it's been an hour, I think.
Or
Um, but over like it was just so I know it's hard to like being in the energy of Abraham and then all the people, all the Abers, whether it's their first time or their, 30th, 50th time, like there is such an energy of desire and intention and it really is focused that I think we all bring and Abraham brings, Esther brings, like the whole crew, and then we just create this amazing experience for all of us. So I know it's hard to convey it like when we're just kind of reading over our notes and talking about it, but I hope you can feel just like a little touch of it.
if somebody
You know,
listened to this far out, I think they,
they felt a little touch.
yeah.
Yeah, I hope
I have
so.
one more last departing
Oh,
gift.
all right, what is it?
When you're seeking to uplift someone, let
Mm,
them uplift you first.
yeah,
As in, think and focus on them. This is about that diminishment. And then really appreciate them with easy things and then refocus back on them.
right. So
Sorry, I know
really,
you were closing, but it had to come out because
no,
it's the
but
last
that's
one.
good. Like focusing on the qualities to build momentum. And it really does uplift me, which then uplifts them.
Yeah,
What I'm hearing. Yeah.
yeah. It was
Yeah.
really enjoyable. I really appreciate it. It was really good to sync up with
Oh,
friends from
I know,
yeah.
right? It
So
was
it
so
was good.
good. And meet new people, you
Yeah,
know,
that's true. 2 days
so
event.
new.
And you
Yeah.
met some people that you met virtually. Like that was really
Yeah.
cool.
Got to see him in person. Yeah. It's super fun. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah. And it's just like we've always known each other. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And then
yeah,
meeting new people. I love like Andreas that we met very like when we got there within an hour and he was so new and he got to experience, we gave him a seat in the front row. Like he was so appreciative and just the next day he was there himself, like, and he had no idea how it worked. Like
yeah.
never didn't know. And so it was just so much fun to share that. And then also just all the people that are just near and dear to me. So it was really
Cool.
cool.
Thanks for allowing us to share it.
Glad we went. Yeah. If
All right.
anybody's listening, y'all rock.
All right. You're good.
All right, babe.
Bye,
Love you.
everybody. Love you, babe.